Hello, I am Tyler Clark, founder and co-creative director of Lucid Studios, and this is Real Reflections. And today we're going to be talking about your favorite French Canadian and mine. We're talking about Denis Villeneuve, baby. In honor of Dune Part 2 coming to streaming soon, I thought it would be a perfect time to kind of delve back into the filmography of one of my favorite filmmakers, and who probably honestly go down as one of the great filmmakers of this generation. So thanks for joining me, and if it's your first time, welcome in. There's a couple little things I wanted to touch on. First is I finally got around to setting us up a Facebook group, and God help me, Meta needs help, people. I don't know when the last time you ever logged on or like tried to do anything productive in Facebook other than scrolling through and liking stuff and commenting. But if you've ever tried to do anything with your account, it is a complete nightmare. Like, you need all kinds of diagrams, schematics, and then probably even some AI assistance to get things done. But mission accomplished. So I don't think that there's any members yet. I think I'm the only one, but I started posting stuff in there just to kind of stay in the habit. So hopefully it'll grow over time and be a place where we can kind of come together and discuss things art related. The other thing is the book club, which I don't have a name for. Don't really know if I guess we'll just call it the Lucid Book Club. Sounds good. So I am still reading Dark Forest by Sin Liu, the writer of the Three Body trilogy, but it's slow going, man. And I don't mean slow going because the book is not good. It's obviously the show is adapted from the book, which takes place mainly in China, so most of the names in the book are Chinese. So it's a little slow going for me at first because there are events from the show that you can use as kind of a way to piece things together, but not only are the names different, but they're Chinese. So just keeping them straight on their own is difficult, and trying to piece things together or like figure out who that character represents in the show just makes it a little bit difficult. But there's enough that's the same that like it's still entertaining to me. So I am going to keep going, and hopefully, like, as I understand who the characters are more, like when the time comes to actually discuss it here, then I'll have a much better idea and a grasp, and I can kind of point out the differences between the show and the book. So looking forward to that. And I think that was really it. So like without further to do, let's get into my man Denis, because we're on a first name basis. So I was thinking about, like, when did I stumble on to Villeneuve? And like I went back and looked at his filmography, and I realized there was a lot of his early stuff that I hadn't seen. So and this is basically just straight from his wiki. So he really began directing in the late 90s, early 2000s, but didn't really achieve, I guess, notice or like prominence until like 2009, 2010, when he directed two films. One was Polytechnique and Incendies, which... So Incendies, the one in 2010, actually earned him an Academy Award nomination, but I still didn't hear about him probably until maybe 2013, when Prisoners came out. He also directed Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal, which we'll talk about in a sec, when we get to the ranking. But I think that was even a smaller film. Well, clearly just based on like the cast and the budget and all that. It was definitely a smaller film, but probably had a smaller release. So yeah, it probably wasn't until Prisoners, but really Sicario, I think, is when in 2015 is when most people kind of woke up to like, whoa, who is this guy? So he's directed 11 features in total, starting in 1998. The first one is called August 32nd on Earth, and then another one called Maelstrom in 2000. And for this power ranking, I wasn't able to find like those online anywhere to watch, so I haven't seen them, but I did get to go back and watch some that I hadn't seen in a long time, like Prisoners and Enemy, Sicario. But then I also got to watch some of his others that I had never seen before. I had never seen Polytechnic before, and Ascendancies was new to me as well. So I think for me, and probably for other cinephiles and movie lovers, it's fun to go back and look at the early beginnings, and you can kind of see some of his tendencies or the way that he frames things or the themes that like really he seems to like come back to over and over again. That was a really interesting and fun from part of this for me. What I thought I'd do with the power ranking is we'll go in reverse from 9 to 1. I give a little synopsis, just kind of briefly explain the plot of each one, so that if you haven't seen it, just gives you an idea of like, what you might be in store for if you decide to watch it. But it's not a deep dive. Like I'm not reviewing any of them. I'm just giving my ranking, and so there's no spoilers. We're going to be ranking 8 since I'm lumping Dune Part 1 and Part 2 together. I think that's the way that they should go, and then there were 2 that I wasn't able to see. So at number 8, Polytechnic, and that's his 2009. It's a dramatization of this school shooting that I didn't even know about. So 1989 Montreal massacre, and it's black and white. It's very raw, super intense. I mean, it's really good. I didn't realize, I'm looking at the runtime now. It's only an hour and 17 minutes. But in that short time, like I remember just him being so good at emotion, like and connecting you to, like it follows a young student played by, what's her name, Karen Vaness. I would love to give credit to all the writers and the 3 main actors that the story follows: the shooter, and then the these 2 young students, one female, one male, and but I would just butcher the French names, so I'm not gonna do that. But it's really good. Like I say, it's really short, and I watched it. I think I found it for free on Tubi, so it's out there and available to watch. And then at number 7, other people will probably have this one higher because it's big on Reddit, but Enemy. Just very aesthetic, psychological thriller with Jake Gyllenhaal playing dual roles. Melanie Laurent, recognized from Inglourious Bastards, is in this one, playing girlfriend of one of the versions of Gyllenhaal. So essentially one of the versions Gyllenhaal plays. There's Anthony and Adam, and forgive me, I can't remember which one is which, but one spots the other one in a movie. It's like this actor who looks exactly like him, and he ends up tracking the actor down, and like they interact, and it just gets crazier and crazier from there. They get involved in each other's lives, and like it just goes from like weird to bad to worse. And there's a lot of like symbolism and stuff that, honestly, like the reason I have it down so low is because it was kind of hard for me to make sense of. I mean, there's some things that happen between the two versions, um, that I don't want to spoil. But it was kind of dense for me. Like, I've heard, in the lead up to the release of Doom, that sometimes, Villeneuve's not that big on dialogue, I guess, or exposition, and for this one, it was just like I maybe could have used a little bit more, or a little bit more clarity, and maybe that's the idea behind it, is that you're supposed to like read into it, and especially the ending. So, but I definitely think everyone should check it out. The performances are all great, like, and that's the thing with all of his movies. Like, even though these two are ranked low, like, I don't think there's not a bad movie on this list. Like, there's not any of them that I wouldn't recommend that people check out. So yeah, that's where I have Enemy. And then next at number 6, Incendies. And just thinking about this one again, it's so good. It's one of his earlier works, from 2010, um, and it essentially, God, it's so dense how to break it down, but basically it follows these twin brother and sister whose mother dies, early on in the film, and in her will, she tells them that they have a brother that they never knew about, who's, off in another country in the Middle East, and she wants them to go find him. And the daughter's all in. The brother was like, hell no. Like, she was crazy, had always been crazy, like wasn't a good mom, whatever. And but so the sister goes, and then you get flashbacks of like the mother's life, and basically you learn that her mother had experienced. I don't think they ever name the country in the Middle East, but it's like it's a war between, I think, the Muslims, and there's definitely some fundamentalist Catholics or Christians, that are like, they're just shooting each other up like the whole time, the whole movie. And her mom's kind of caught in the middle of that stuff, and I believe she's even a Christian, living over there. So you get to see, like, how their mother grew up, and like in this war torn country, and how it impacted her. So as you're learning about her, you learn more about the twins also, and it's it's very raw. You can tell, like, he didn't have like the big budgets at that time, but all the acting is very good. Like, you still get like um, that Villeneuve, like the way that he sets tone, and he's the way he's framing things, and like even action scenes, in the movie, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, but very good. And that one's available on, Tubi as well, and then Mubi. I guess that's another paid service. I don't use that one, but it's available there as well, and probably on Prime also. All right, and then at number 5, Prisoners, also from 2013. So I guess he had two come out 2013, Enemy and Prisoners. And I guess it seems like it was his first big studio movie, because it has like this huge cast, worked with Jake Gyllenhaal again, Hugh Jackman, Viola Davis, Paul Dano, Terrence Howard, Maria Bello. And it basically follows these, two families. They're friends in, I guess, Pennsylvania. I did not revisit this one, because this one's like I said, all his movies are so good, but this one is really hard to watch, because, um, these two families that are friends have two young girls that are friends, and it follows like they get abducted, and essentially Jake Gyllenhaal is a cop that's like looking for him, and the two parents, Hugh Jackman, or the two dads, I should say, Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard, but really more Hugh Jackman, kind of goes like ape shit looking for his daughter and just does anything and everything, and it really starts to, like, he really starts crossing boundaries, and the movie starts asking a lot of morality questions, like, how far is too far, when it comes to, family members and people that you love. And so it gets pretty dark, but it's so good. And that one's available on Prime as well. All right, at number 4, Sicario. So, interesting fact. I was just curious, after just talking about Prisoners and then like getting ready to talk about Sicario, which stars Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro. Sicario is an action thriller that follows Emily Blunt, who plays an FBI agent who gets, I guess you'd say, like, rolled into this much bigger operation involving Josh Brolin, who plays I think it's like a DOD spook or contractor, and Benicio del Toro, who is kind of in a similar position, but working for some Latin government. Like, it's not going to get like specific, like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything, but when I was thinking about the comparison between this one and Prisoners, where Prisoners, just takes place in, I don't know, like the Northeast, like Pennsylvania, like a little small town. I mean, it has some big stars, but they're pretty much just, in that town and just going into different houses, like small sets, I should say. And Sicario, they're going, between, I don't know, Arizona, Texas, like they're doing like these big set pieces and border scenes, and all that to say, Sicario was like $10 million cheaper to make. Like, when I was looking at the budget, or to, like, I don't know, it was like 10 to 12, 15, something like that. So I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting. I mean, you've got helicopters and private jets and Delta teams and, I don't know, SWAT vehicles crashing into houses, but and still like really big name actors as well. So I don't know. I just thought that was like really interesting. And Sicario is also written. Thought this is interesting too. Written by Taylor Sheridan. I guess it was an early work of his, who brought us like the Yellowstone universe, and I don't know. I never watched. I think, is it 1896, Tulsa King, and all that stuff. So interesting, but the action is great. Like, the performances are like super memorable, and the set pieces, again, like, that's why I thought it cost. I could have, just from watching it, like, I thought it cost more money. It seems like he had more money to do this, but I guess maybe you're just seeing the elevation of Villeneuve's craft, as time goes on, and he's able to do more with less, and he knows exactly what he wants from his performers, and has more and more of a vision. Seems to be the case. So that's number 4, Sicario. So this one is streaming on, not sure who has MGM Plus, but hey, if you do, Sicario is there for you. And again, as always, available to rent or buy on. Oh no, actually, this one's included with Prime also, so you can watch it there. All right, so number 3. All right, number 3. So Arrival follows, stars Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, and Forrest Whitaker, and it basically follows Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner as they discover how to communicate. I mean, this all happens very early in the film. Like they're tasked with discovering how to communicate with aliens or extraterrestrials that have landed at like 12, I think it's 12 spots, 12 ships at different places on the Earth, basically. This one was a fight for me, like between, like I really felt like it could be number two for me. And the reason is because even though it's a lot simpler than the films that we have left at number two and number one, it just hits you in, like, I don't know, and it hits me in the perfect place. You know, it's at this crossroads for me of sci-fi, which has always been like a soft spot for me, like good, really good sci-fi. Um, the performances are great, and then it has like that emotional layer. Again, I guess it goes to craft. You see Villeneuve get deeper and deeper into the use of production design and like setting his tone with the performances and the score and just like scale, I guess, more and more scale like coming together for him. And also I would say, I mean, you saw this a little bit with I guess in Cindy's, where he's telling, where it's kind of like multi-layered storytelling, you know, and you start to see like him playing with time, I guess, a little bit more, as Amy Adams, and this happens pretty early too. She starts to have these like flashbacks or flash forwards, you know, so, and you're not really sure what you're seeing, basically, but he becomes more and more expert with those aspects of storytelling as well. A little bit faster through the last two because I've kind of gone on longer than I meant to. Um, but at number two, Blade Runner 2049, and I was amazed to learn that this was a well, I guess it kind of makes sense a little bit, but it was a box office flop. Um, and apparently the first one was too. It just became a cult classic later. And I've seen the first Blade Runner, but I'm not honestly like a huge fan. I mean, I thought it was cool, but it's not one that I like go back to over and over and over again. It wasn't like a sacred text for me. I'm not one of the people who's seen, you know, all the different cuts of it and or anything, but I do love, and I've revisited many times, this one. So I think in this one, it's really neat to go back and watch this one after having seen Dune as well, because I think you can totally see like him playing with like early things or early technologies or techniques or whatever you want to call it that'll come into play later in Dune. Blade Runner 2049, like I said, is a sequel to the original Blade Runner, and this one stars Ryan Gosling. Harrison Ford is back. Also has kind of a long list of supporting characters or supporting cast: Ana de Armas, Robin Wright, Mackenzie Davis, Dave Bautista, Jared Leto, and I'm going to mess her name up. I think she's a Dutch actress who plays one of the replicants, who's my favorite character, Sylvia Hoeks, as Love. She is amazing. But it basically, so it picks up some years after the original, and the main thrust of it is that police or whatever they are, the Blade Runner, they figure out that a child has been born basically to a replicant mother, and Ryan Gosling's character Kay is tasked with finding it, eliminating it, and all trace of it, because they don't want it to get out that replicants can have children. Meanwhile, like the Tyrell Corporation That's exactly what they want. Like, they can't build replicants fast enough to do what they want to do, so they want to, like, that's the last, or like the holy grail for them is reproduction. Like, so that's basically the plot of it, but it's really more of a vibe movie, you know. Like, you can just sink into, like, to me, it's like, this one could almost be number one, to be honest. Like, I think it becomes preference. Um, you know, which world do you want to be in between Blade Runner 2049 and Dune? Like, are you happier in, like, Arrakis, you know, with like where the spice is flowing, or, you know, and I'm tipping my hat. Well, obviously, it's the only one that's left for number one, but yeah, I think Blade Runner 2049 is a complete vibe movie. Like, if you're into neo noir, like, you get that. You get like some of the coolest production design aside from Dune. Like, where else do you get it? I think Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, like, when it comes to production design, like, there's for physical sets and stuff that they build, like the cars, like the, in Blade Runner, the buildings, like some of the technology that Terrell uses. It's just all, it's so cool. So it's a lot of that, and it's long, but again, like, and he gets a great performance out of Ryan Gosling as, um, like, even though they're replicants, or he plays a replicant, like, they have definite personalities. Like, whether you want to get into like the metaphysical debate of whether they have souls and all that or not, but the replicants definitely have personalities and traits that, like, endear you to them and make you care what happens to them. So there's a lot there. Like, it's, again, I've watched it multiple times, and it really never gets old to me. So solid number two, Blade Runner 2049. And Blade Runner 2049 is streaming on Hulu right now, and you can also rent or buy it on Prime, just like almost everything else. All right, so Dune parts 1 and 2, as I said before, have to be put together, and I think, honestly, like, they're still not done. I mean, he's going to do part 3. Dune Messiah is supposedly coming, like, in a few years, so it's really not done. But I guess up until now, you'd call this his masterpiece. 2 is scheduled for streaming release in a few days on April 16th. So, you know, hopefully a lot more people will get a chance to watch it then and watch them back to back, which is what I plan to do. So, just in summary, in case you hadn't seen Dune, it follows a young man and his family, Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet. Essentially, this is kind of where Game of Thrones and some of the other big fantasy stories have come from. So it, you know, kind of follows houses, really. You know, he's House Atreides. There's another house that opposes them, House Harkonnen, who controls this planet called Arrakis and the natural resource it produces, which is spice that's used all over the galaxy for all kinds of stuff that I don't even really fully understand, from like space travel to, like, it's also a drug. It's crazy. So it's a whole world. I mean, in this one we get to see, you know, when Villeneuve's given a blank check and all these years and going through the list, you can kind of see him building up his skills and the people he works with, the production designers, the sound people, the visual effects people. I mean, just, you get to see it all come together. And, you know, he's been thinking about this from what I've heard in interviews, his entire life. So, I mean, well deserving. It deserves to be up here. Like I say, you know, depending on which world you want to hang out in, like you could make the case that, Not that there's more to Blade Runner 2049, but it's just a different vibe, right? Like